Measurements, measurements, measurements. What measurements are important? How do you measure yourself? And is there any faux pas or anything you need to worry about when measuring someone else? That's what we're going to be talking about today in this week's Tricky Thursday. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Trisha. I call myself your pattern nerd friend. I am the owner of Creative Costume Academy. It is called Creative Costume Academy because I have a 20+ year-long career working in the entertainment industry, making costumes for big theatrical productions. So I have taken tons of measurements, and I have heard from you that this is something you would like more help on. So here we are for Tricky Thursday. Today we're going to be talking about measurements. There are a few tools that you will want to have in order to take measurements efficiently. And I do want to tell you that everybody measures differently. So if you're going to have a lot of measurements of people, you're going to be making lots of things for lots of different people, it's really good to have one person take all of those measurements because you know they're going to be in the same range of things. If that's not available to you, that's understandable as well. And then I know a lot of you don't sew for other people, so this would be taking measurements for yourself, and I have some tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you on that as well. First thing you're going to need, of course, is a measuring tape. I prefer to use the really long 120-inch measuring tape as opposed to the 60-inch, especially if I'm measuring other people. I never want anyone to feel uncomfortable like I've run out of measuring tape, so that is always very important to me. I like the long measuring tape for taking personal measurements. You also want to make sure it is a sewing measuring tape, not a metal like carpenter's measuring tape, because that will make things a little bit more difficult. Another really helpful thing to have is either a piece of elastic or a string, ribbon, tie, anything like that. I'll explain what that's for in a little bit. You're going to want to have a measurement sheet, maybe provided by whoever needs these measurements, or if this is something that you are going to be making a lot of things for other people, then you want to craft your own measurement sheet so that maybe you can send this out to people if you don't get to take measurements in-house, or you just want to have, if you're doing this for yourself, you just want to have some pen and paper to be able to record these measurements for yourself efficiently. Now, there are tons of measurements that you could take. And when we get into like more intricate costumes, let's say that I've made, then you're gonna want all of those extra measurements. But today I wanna share with you the most important ones that I find the most helpful and how to do them on yourself. And I'll also be sharing tips with you if you are measuring someone else, like things you wanna be aware of. The first thing before you get into any of the actual measurement taking is you want to be aware of a couple of things. Undergarments are super important. So if you are making this for yourself or for a client, whatever bra you are wearing is very important. So if you like to wear an underwire bra, that's the kind of bra you're going to be wearing in the garment that you're making, then that's the bra you want to be wearing when you're taking these measurements. If this is going to be a more casual garment and you're just needing kind of basic measurements and you wear a sports bra every day or a soft bralette, then that's the bra that you want to wear. It will hold you in a different place, and it will, like sports bras generally flatten you out slightly, so your measurements will reflect that. So it's very important to be aware of that. Also, a strapless bra will make you sit in a different position as well. So that is really important. The other thing is you want to make sure that you're wearing somewhat, this isn't the most fashionable garment that I got in my closet. You want to have something on that's not super flowy and like extra full and billowy, because you're going to be measuring the body and you want to make sure that you're able to get close to the body. It doesn't have to be skin tight. I'm wearing like leggings and a tighter shirt to make it easy, but you just don't want it to be really super bulky and really flowy where it's going to cause extra fabric to bunch up where you're trying to get those measurements. So that's also another thing to take note of. So the first step you're going to want to do is find your waist. And this is where our handy twill tape ribbon, let's do that so I can really see. Now, this has always been a tricky thing for a lot of people, finding the waist. How do you know where to find the waist? The most common answer that I always heard was if you bend to the side and you sing that song like, I'm a little teapot short, You know, you got me? You got me? Wherever you bend in at the waist, so I'm bending in here, I could do it on the other side, I'm bending in here. That is my natural waist. It doesn't matter where your belly button is because that's positioned differently on every person. Now, if you don't really bend in at the waist, as some of us don't, you can really decide wherever the heck you want your waist to be, and that becomes your waist. So it's really up to you, but we do want to make sure that we are going to the natural waist, so it might be slightly higher than what you're used to or where you wear your pants. We're going to talk about that when we get more into the measurement. So I'm going to bend at the side, and wherever you decide your waist is, that's where you want to take your ribbon, your string, your elastic, just tie a little string there so that especially when you are taking measurements, you are going back to the same position every time. So that is going to be my waist. Now I'm set up for actually taking measurements. The first most important measurement that you want to take is your bust measurement, your chest measurement, going around the fullest part of your bust. Now there are other bust measurements that are helpful for other things. I typically am most concerned about the just fullest bust measurement. You want to take your measuring tape and have it go around your body. And here's the important thing. You'll notice that I am using you, hey there, as my mirror so that I can tell what I'm doing. So if you're not doing this on camera, as I assume most of you won't be, you want to make sure you're doing this in front of a mirror so that you're double checking. So I can tell by going around the fullest part of my bust that this is pretty much level to my waistline, which is another reason why it's helpful to have that tie at your waist. What you don't want to see is something that's angled down like this, where it's angled down, because that's going to add more to that measurement and it won't be completely accurate. So you want to try to keep it pretty parallel with the ground, with your waist, and that would be how you record your measurement. Now, when I'm measuring singers and opera singers and things like that, I usually ask them to expand, and I'll take 2 measurements for their chest area. I will have the expanded measurement and I will have the just relaxed measurement. So when you're taking these measurements, you don't want to like pull things tight. It does not serve you to make your measurements smaller than what actually would be comfortable for your body, but you also don't want it to be loosey-goosey either. So you want it to just be kind of fitted on your body. And what I usually do is I have like a finger underneath to allow for it to have a little bit of ease. So you hold that close, and then I usually will hold the finger on my measuring tape at the measurement, and then I can hold that until I'm able to write it down on a piece of paper or on my measuring sheet that I am using. The waist, very similar. You can go right around that tape, just like so, making sure again that it's straight, that it's not up or down, that it's pretty much right in the same level. Now, some of us are shaped, or we might have more of a curvature to our back, or our hips are tilted differently. That's totally fine. Wherever you envision your waist to be, you just want to make sure you are directly on that waist, wherever it is. And same thing, you don't want to pull too tight or too loose. You want to have like a finger underneath your measuring tape, and then you can release and record that measurement. Next up, we go into our high hip and our hips. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is when you are doing measurements, if people are wearing pants or dresses or anything with pockets in them, you do want to make sure that all of your pockets are empty. You don't want to have anything in your pockets, especially when you're doing the high hip and low hip measurements. So first, for your high hip, your fullest part of your hip is going to be down here at the fullest part of your booty, but your high hip is kind of midway in between that area and your waist. And this would be kind of where we all wear our low-rise pants nowadays. Very few of us actually wear them at our true waist. So you want to record the high hip measurement is very helpful, especially for pants if you're not wanting to wear them all the way up to your natural waist. Another good measurement to have, so you would hold your finger there just like we did with the others and record what that measurement is. Another helpful measurement is to determine how far down your high hip measurement is from your waist. So I would record that measurement, hold a finger here if I'm doing this myself, release the measuring tape. I could measure from my waist ribbon all the way down to where my finger is, and that is going to tell me the height of my high hip measurement from my waist. Now, next you wanna measure your fullest part of your hip, and now that is the fullest part of your booty. In my case, I don't have much of a fullest part, but you go to the fullest part of whatever your booty is, and your body is going to be different than mine. You measure from the fullest part of your booty, again, not too tight, not too loose, and you could hold and record that measurement. Now, I do wanna add a little something that I have learned recently that I find is truly helpful. So if you're using a commercial pattern and you're wanting to know, and if you have a belly that sticks far out beyond the fullest part of your booty, or if you have some very muscular thighs, say like some of my acrobat friends, then you'll want to, if you're using a commercial pattern, include some of that fullness. The best way to do that is to have a ruler. So I just have this ruler sitting by, and you can kind of use that waist ribbon to hold it. So if your belly sticking out, that would be good. And holding that out so that it's hanging down or like lining up with either your belly or your thigh. And then when you take your hip measurement in the same position, you include what is sticking out beyond your hip area. It would be helpful if you had a more rigid ruler. And then that isn't necessarily your hip measurement, but you use that as your hip measurement when picking the pattern that you want to use so that you make sure you have enough space and then you can fit down from there. So that's really helpful. Same thing when you're measuring the high hip. If you want to get the height of where your hip is from your waist, you want to hold your finger there, and then you can measure down from your waist ribbon down to your hip. And that's a good measurement to know how far away your hip is from your waist, because that's going to be different on all of us. We all are beautifully, uniquely different. These next ones, I would say, are the next most important ones that I always ask people to give me. So your center front length. Now, when you're measuring your center front length, and this is where it's important to have your waist ribbon, because then you're measuring to the same position. And I will say, you can choose, now this is a pretty thin ribbon, but if you're using something a bit wider, you wanna always be going to the top or always be going to the bottom of your ribbon so that your measurements stay consistent. Now, when measuring the center front length, I'm kind of feeling, you see these two collarbones, like right in between those two collarbones is where I want to hold this measuring tape. You can do that, or if you're measuring someone else, you can ask them to hold that there, and then you go down to your waist tape, you can ask them to release that, and then that will be your center front length. It's same thing in the back. So we all have this little bone. I can kind of feel that little bone right there in the back. That's what I want to be measuring my back length measurement to. And here's how I do it by myself. So I kind of close my eyes and I can feel where that bone is, and I hold that measuring tape there. Now I have a hood on, which isn't the most accurate thing, but I can feel like I can hold that measuring tape with my other hand, and I can feel where that waist tape is. So I'm holding it up at the top of my neck with one hand, and then I'm kind of holding it down to where the waist tape is with the other. Then what I can do is release this hand that's holding it up at my neck, and the other one is holding the measurement, making it easy to record onto my paper for the back length measurement. Lastly, I think it's really important to get a few leg measurements depending on what you're making, especially if you're making pants or some kind of leotard with legs, leggings. The easiest way to do that, and yes, you can do it yourself, is I really find it helpful to take your side waist to floor. You can do front, side, and back. If you're measuring someone else, it's a little easier, but I find the most important, most helpful one is to take your side waist to floor. So I'm gonna angle you down so you can really see what I'm doing. Now, when I'm taking my side waist to floor, I'm gonna hold it here at my waist level. And if I'm doing this myself, you wanna have either your person be barefoot or have very flat shoes. I have pretty flat shoes on, so I'm not worried, but if you have something with a heel, like a dress shoe or a boot, you wanna have those removed, and that's gonna be better than including that measurement when you're taking this. So if you kind of step on the measuring tape, you can see it's pretty flat against my leg, so that I know that's a pretty accurate measurement. So once I've got that and I've got it flat like under my foot, I can release this from the waist. I can bend down, pick it up from the floor, and that is my side to waist measurement. So that's a handy dandy trick for doing that measurement for yourself. The same thing would go as if you're taking an inseam measurement. So if you're gonna take an inseam measurement and you're doing this yourself, I usually take the end of the measuring tape and just place it where it's comfortable. You don't need to have it like up in there, because generally our pants and our clothing aren't going all the way up, giving them a wedgie. If you are doing this on somebody else, that could be an awkward position to put your hand. So usually what I do when I'm measuring someone else is I say, here you go, person, put that where it's comfortable, and I kind of watch to see where it's comfortable for them. And then you do the same thing like what we were talking about, where you step on, if you're doing this yourself, you step on the measuring tape to get it to be kind of taut within the inseam. You can release that, and same if you're doing it with someone else. The other important thing to remember when you're taking these leg measurements is that you're not looking down, or the person that you're measuring isn't looking down, because that's going to shorten that measurement. So you want to be standing up and looking forward. We don't also want to be like shifted on either leg. So that's really important. So once you have that measurement, you think it's, it's correct, then you can release that from the inseam, or ask your person that they can let go, bend down, and pick it up from the floor, and that is your inseam measurement. So there's just one more measurement that I find really super handy and important, especially if you're making pants or shorts, or especially leotards, unitards, anything that's going in between the legs. So that is the half girth measurement. So the half girth measurement goes from the center front waist through the legs to the center back waist. So if I was doing this myself, I would just put that measuring tape here. I would push that measuring tape through my legs and come up in the back, and I could feel where that waist tape is and make sure it's comfortable. We don't need to pull it up and give ourselves a wedgie, but we want to make sure it's somewhat comfortable at, in between our legs, and take that measurement. Now, if I was doing this with somebody else, I would hand them the measuring tape and I would say, here you go, hold this right at your waist. Do the same thing. I would go around behind them and I would pull it, and I would ask, are you comfortable? Is this too tight, too loose? And get their feedback. Then I would say to them, or if I was doing it myself, I would say, go ahead and release that from the front. You could pull it from the back, and that is your half girth measurement. That one's really handy. Now you can, if you're doing a full jumpsuit or a leotard, a full unitard or a leotard, then you want to go from that center front neck area all the way through. So same thing, if I was doing somebody else, I would say, go ahead and hold that right here at the center front neck. We'll go through the legs. You do want to make sure if there is a big tilt that you lay it flat against the body going all the way up, because the garment would need to do the same thing. Now, if you didn't get a chance to do that full girth measurement, is what we talk about, where we go from center front neck to center back neck, then you could take the center front length measurement that we took, add it to your half girth, and then add in that center back length measurement to get your full girth measurement. So those are my top measurements and my tips for measuring yourself and measuring somebody else. I hope that you found that helpful. I know that the very first thing that you need to think about when you're making a pattern or a garment or a costume is, what are the measurements? We don't need to know what size you are at the store. We don't need it small, medium, large. The numbers are the most important thing. That's going to help you be most accurate with your fit and having a successful fitted garment. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you like this sort of thing, please hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications so you know when we're going to do this next. We try to do this every Thursday to share with you a little tip or trick. Now, if you are interested in learning more about pattern making and how to draft your own patterns using these measurements, we have a fun and easy way that I like to teach pattern making that's different than a lot of people. You can try it out for absolutely free in our free pattern masterclass. That link is located down below. And if you're already in, you're like, I'm ready to do this, you can go and check out our Pattern Making Academy, which is the sister school to Mimi G's Sew It Academy, where I am the lead instructor. You can sign up right away, very reasonable monthly price. That's at learnpatternmaking.com. That's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time.